Welcome to a long-awaited Toontown Mysteries video. So let me just say right off the bat that this video is definitely a lot more theoretical and theory-based rather than hard cold facts or super amazing unreleased content, but it is something that's sort of a personal favorite topic of mine. Outside lands of Toontown. Now, a problem that I can see with this topic is really anything can really fit under this video. I mean, Mickey's Sky Clan is an appropriate thing as far as outside or unknown lands go. The ones I'm discussing in this video are solely ones that I've noticed or taken note of for a long time. So let's quite simply just jump right into them. Number 1, Doodle Land. I think the idea of a Doodle Land is a very popular idea. Lots of people have suggested and requested a Doodle Park be added to TTR and other servers, and the idea of a Doodle Playground such as Flippy's Doodle Fluffy running Funny Farms as a Doodle Playground has been a myth and a rumor for a long time. The fact of the matter is doodles and playgrounds, or doodles in a specific location, were things that the Toontown Online team did discuss and look into, but never truly really worked towards achieving that. But there's something even a little more interesting about a Doodle Land. In 2004, the Toontown Online team were still doing the monthly mailers and trading cards to everyone that was subscribed and signed up for it. One of these trading cards you could receive was a Doodles Come to Toontown Great Moments in Toontown card. On the card it reads, "Doodles, the perfect Toontown pets, were a gift to Toontown from Deedle von Doodlesworth, Emperor of Doodlevania." It continues to say that upon visiting Toontown, he was captured by Cogs, and upon being rescued, gave the Toons of Toontown doodles as a sign of gratitude. Now, I think most people, Jesse Shell included, would most likely easily say that the trading card text was always just not canon at all, but the idea that there's other towns or lands or worlds out there, such as a Doodlevania, where it's a land filled with bouncing little doodle jelly beans, is a really cool and unique thought. It's something that always stuck with me upon reading this card. Number 2, the outskirts of Toontown. Back in the early days of Toontown Online, there was a flash video that played when you were installing the game. It featured Scrooge McDuck visiting Gyro Gearloose and ultimately setting up the chain of events that led to Cogs taking over Toontown. However, in the beginning of the video, it says that it takes place on the outskirts of Toontown. Now, even in a theoretical canon, you can imagine that current-day Toontown outskirts may be compromised by Cogs, but it gives you the impression that Toontown really is just one little area in an entire world, one that you can explore many new places in. And where's Gyro's lab? It's based on the outskirts of Toontown, or is it on its own, or are there more buildings or a small section of Toonie residents on this outskirt of Toontown? It ties into what Toontown Rewritten's Joey mentioned on a previous Smirky Q&A, mentioning that in his mind the land of Toontown is completely surrounded by the Cogs, that Toontown is the last place of solitude for the Toons, or may there be other safe lands like Doodlevania. Number 3, and this one's probably the biggest stretch of them all, but other species. For a few years on Toontown Online and this past year or so on Toontown Rewritten, there were species elections to add and bring in a new species to the land of Toontown. Now, it's a really simplistic thought, but in all the text and in all the canon, these species are campaigning for your vote to get into Toontown. So does that mean there's tons of species of Toons that are just out there somewhere, just trying to basically make immigration into Toontown? It's a bit of a ridiculous thought, but it's still something for you to chew on. Number 5, estates. Every single Toon has one. You can visit your friends, you can hang out at your own, you can go almost anytime you want, but where really is home for Toons? I don't actually know if there's ever truly been an explanation for a canon location for all these Toon estates. I've heard even people saying backdrops in Toontown Central are where estates are way off in the distance, but it still seems like a stretch. I know game design basically causes this weird, almost estate purgatory vibe because of the fact of really needing a lag-free and stress-free environment to handle estates for every single Toon in the game. Maybe it being so disconnected and having no music is what causes it to seem somewhat eerie or creepy even for some people. Just more food for thought. Number 6, and this one's one of my favorites, the Island of Lost Gags. In the first series of trading cards, there was a Toonography card released solely for Melville, who's notable for having held Toontown Online's annual fishing contest for years. In the card, he tells a tale of sailing upon the 7 seas. When he can become fully prepared, he'll sail from Donald's Dock to points unknown, mentioning he'll perhaps find the Island of Lost Gags or the secret underwater Cog HQ. Now again, this may not be anywhere near canon in terms of the Toontown meta, but the idea that not only are there other Toontown lands perhaps, but even the ability to sail around on the sea from Donald's Dock and explore the world, maybe even like a Pirates of the Caribbean online with their boating system, is something so unique to a lot of what Toontown is, and such an awesome concept in my opinion. Not to mention the island of Lost Gags. Could you imagine content being added to the game where all of a sudden you're now able to build a boat through a task line and sail the seas until you find the island of Lost Gags, finding more task lines there to learn rare gags or new gag tracks, or something that truly adds new features to the battle system? Can you just stop and actually imagine that? And then an underwater COG HQ. Now, I don't even have an idea for what this could end up being in a content edition, some new COG type that led them to being a new stronger underwater COG that you have to do another task line to find and be able to fight, play through, and advance in addition to the current game, would still be something really amazing and fun and would be a fantastic addition to what the game is currently. All this just stemming from a jokey 2002-2003 Toontown trading card, right? Now do you see why that one's actually my particular favorite? And before you ask, no, the Island of Lost Gags and the Secret Underwater COG HQ are unfortunately not canon. I actually emailed Jesse Shell myself asking about the Melville card and the locations mentioned on the card, and Jesse Shell basically said that it's just kind of on the impression that Captain Melville perhaps is a little crazy. So, Island of Lost Gags, Secret Underwater COG HQ, not really actually canon, but it's such a cool thought, isn't it? And last but not least, COG Nation. Now there's been a few references, there's boxes in Cashbot HQ that say COG Nation on them, they've mentioned the chairman and COG Nation before in newsletters and things alike, but just where and how is COG Nation set up? TTR Joey's theory from earlier expands upon that, suggesting that the whole circle of COG invasion going around the land of Toontown is actually possible where COG Nation itself would be located. Are there trains that once you hop aboard you can ride to infiltrate this COG Nation? Use the manholes to travel through the COG sewers to get to COG Nation? Sail the seas around land until you find an entrance point? Quite simply discover a new tunnel or path in the fight to fight COG Nation? The idea of COG Nation is a widely rumored, theorized, and varying concept, but I think at this point the only thing that's truly for certain is that it's canon enough to fully believe that COG Nation does exist in some form, somehow in the world that Toontown resides in. Will content ever be added to reflect the ideas in this video? Maybe not specifically down to the point, but the general theory of new lands and locations could very well make its way into Toontown Rewritten, Project Altus, ODS, or any other Toontown server that has the development and ambition to achieve such a thing, and I hope I can get to see that someday. The last little nugget I'll add to these are things Jesse Shell said at Replay FX. Now, I emailed him a few weeks before Replay FX, and quite honestly, he told me everything that he eventually did mention at Replay FX, so many of you probably already know all of this by now, but for those of you that don't, here's what he told me in terms of not only new lands, but expanding the current lands and playgrounds as well. He told me a playground concept that I don't think has been talked about much was a concept for a Goofy-centric neighborhood that had a lot of crazy cartoon physics. In particular, the playground area had a hill in the middle that got steeper and steeper until eventually it curved up and met with the playground ceiling. This way you could walk right up the wall and then be walking on the ceiling. Obviously, it ended up being abandoned due to the tricky physics that would have taken an enormous amount of effort to create and work in the Panda 3D system. An expansion and addition to all current playgrounds was also originally in the design of the game. Each playground was actually going to have their own individual game built into the playground itself. It would have worked a lot like party activities. You step into the boundaries of the game and you're playing tag in Toontown Central, doing swimming tricks in Donald's Dock, doing ice skating and ice skating tricks in the Burr, catching floating Z's around in Donald's Dreamland, and games such as that designed to help you restore laugh a bit faster. Now again, all the things I mentioned here are more or less simply theoretical, but it's still really fun to imagine, to think about, and to even develop your own storylines about what direction the future of the game should take. Hopefully you enjoyed the trip through these ideas and thoughts, and hopefully it got you thinking a bit about a lot of fun potential ideas for new Toontown content that you can share with the world. The only path forward for Toontown to continue existing is new content in some form. Whether it's a reboot, a sequel, or just expansions to the original game in the private servers that are currently out there, ideas and theories like these are needed, and they're specifically encouraged by me as it promotes thinking. It allows people to get creative inspiration and the motivation to create their own stories, locations, battles, canon, and suggestions that they're able to share with everyone, and perhaps even get to see it become realized in the existence of a future update in a private server. The only way to keep this game alive is expansion. Whether it's content or a sequel, I'm just hoping that it can keep going for the foreseeable future. Here's to the future lands of Toontown that we may see someday. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time in my next video.